I'm Shaun from Paessler, and in this tutorial I'll show you how to use the DICOM sensors of PRTG. As you know, in a healthcare IT environment, the DICOM protocol is used to store images from the modalities to a picture archiving and communication system, as well as to move and retrieve these images. We will show you 3 ways you can monitor this process using PRTG. Use the DICOM C-ECHO sensor to check that devices are responding and to see their response times. Use the DICOM Query Retrieve sensor to query the number of worklist entries, and use the DICOM Bandwidth sensor to check on the bandwidth used to store images. Using these sensors, you can keep tabs on your DICOM devices and systems. Let's take a look at how. So the first DICOM sensor that we're going to look at is the DICOM C-ECHO sensor. And we're going to set it up. If you have a look here, here's our, let's say, our medical environment, and we have an Orthan C PACS and a PACS cloud. We're going to set up our C-ECHO on the PACS cloud. So we do a search here for C-ECHO. We can see it's called DICOM C-ECHO, and this checks the response time of a DICOM device using DICOM C-ECHO request. And calling application title must be set, and we'll call this PACS, and we'll leave the port at 104. And if we create it, we now have a sensor monitoring the PACS cloud, and we can get this to scan now, and we should get our data pretty soon. Sometimes it takes a few seconds, but there you can see it's green. We've got a check mark, and if I click on it, I can see the response average is 103 milliseconds, and also the maximum and minimum response times. The next DICOM sensor we're going to look at is one that will use a cfind request to check on the number of worklist entries across all of our modalities. And that way you can make sure that you're not ending up with a bottleneck and that everything is being cleared as it should be. So on our PACS cloud device, we're going to add a new sensor. We're going to do a search for cfind. And you can see a DICOM Query Retrieve sensor. So this shows the item count and response time for a cfind search level. You can define different search levels, as we'll have a look at in a second. The calling application entity title is PRTG, and in this case we'll just say it's PACS, and we leave the port as is. And here you can set the cfind level that we're looking at, and in this case we're querying the worklist entries. So we set that to worklist. We leave that as station AET field, and the channel field is also station AET, and we create that sensor. And once again, get it to do a scan now, and we wait for data. So now it's green. I could have given it a better name. Usually you would give it a name to indicate what it's doing. But if we go in and have a look here you can see all of the channels that we have available to us. We can see the total number of worklist entries, and also average query entry time, the minimum and the maximum query entry times, and then you can see the number of worklist entries per modality or per device. So those are the values that you can have a look at there. What we want to do is we want to set up an alert within PRTG to alert us when that total number of worklist entries gets to a certain point. So over here on total count, which is at the moment 29, we want to say enable alerting based on limits. And the upper error limit, let's say when it gets to 100, we've got a problem. And we want to be warned when it gets to around 50 total worklist entries. And we go OK. And now you can see this changes the gauge. We would be able to see if we get to sort of the warning area, it'd be here, and then if we go over the 100 mark, we would be in the red. So we would be able to get some alerts and notifications based on that. While we're here, I'm just going to rename this sensor to make it a little bit more meaningful. And there we can go back to our device screen. So there we have our C-ECHO and our worklist entry. Another thing we can do with the DICOM C-find request is to check on, for example, patient entries. So we're going to do that on our auth and C packs. And if we add a sensor, again, it's C-find. We use our query retrieve sensor, but we will do it on a different level this time. So calling application is PRTG, auth and C is the called application entity type, and our port in this case is 4242. And here you can set the C-find level. If you wanted to do it, for example, at series level, you could set it here. But in our case, we're just going to do it at patient level. We create the sensor. Let's get it to scan now. And refresh our view. And now we can see we have data coming in there. If I click on it to see what we have a total of 1 patient entry in this example, and we also can see for the query itself the average, minimum, and maximum query entry times. Another thing we can do with DICOM sensors in PRTG is to check on C-store to make sure that there's enough bandwidth for storing images to the PACS server. We're going to do it on our auth and C, add server, and in this case we're going to do a search for C-store, and here you can see it's called the DICOM bandwidth sensor, and it essentially sends DICOM files to the target device, in our case the auth and C, to check on the bandwidth usage. It does mean that you need to have a folder available to your PRTG installation with test images in it that PRTG will use to send to the server. So let's go about creating this. DICOM bandwidth, we'll leave the name as it is, PRTG, and let's see, again, port is 4242. Now in our file path, in my case, I have some test images stored on my C drive. I'm just going to enter C DICOM, and we can create. And what this sensor does essentially is uses the images in that folder and tries to store them to the PACS device, and will let us know if there's problems. Let's refresh. And then you can see it's up. So if we have a look at the sensor itself, you can see the channels that we have. It lets us know the bandwidth and also the response time and the C-store size file, and that we can monitor all those things from the sensor.
If you find this video helpful, feel free to like it and consider watching our other videos on our channel. If you still have questions, please contact support@paessler.com, and always feel free to comment for feedback or suggestions for other topics. Thank you.